Okay, guys, we're gonna do something a bit fun, and that's talking about Kenny Omega and his overrated ability as a pro wrestler. Over a decade and a half, I've heard about this dude over from Ring of Honor, from fucking New Japan, and now AEW, and how much of an ecstatic, athletic bout machine he is, even though he's an overrated, no psychology, overly reliant on athleticism, video game moves, weeaboo, weirdo, with no semblance of understanding how wrestling works, has a weird ineptness of thinking all because you were popular for like a year means you have that much mainstream credibility, and obviously no set mentality or ability or look to actually carry a company. Currently, Kenny Omega is the current AEW World Champion, and he is yet to have the most viewed segments on the show that he's partly made of creating from just 2 years ago. It is now 2021. AEW Dynamite been starting airing. He's been at least one of the more primordial sort of draws in the company, or at least one of the guys that you're supposed to favorably try to watch the show for, and he has yet to even show that. Kenny Omega has been notable for doing many things, and that's supposedly having the best matches over most of the Elite or AEW roster, yet most of them are memorable. And you could talk crap about John Cena, at least I remember his matches. And you can be like, oh, because he was under the WWE umbrella. No, because he's actual draw. People remember his matches, and whether you like it or not, they're decently executed, they're memorable, and they were also against a memorable star. Kenny Omega faced off against guys like Chris Jericho, Kazuchika Okada, Tanahashi, Shinsuke Nakamura, Pac, and none of them ever drew. The the a criticism over a star rating does not legitimize you for a show that's obviously an act. And Kenny Omega comes around over consistent knee targets over from knee breakers and garbage like that, and he'll still hit you with his stupid bicycle knee he calls the V trigger. Or he'll come over selling over his knee or not or back, and he'll still try to give you a stupid dragon suplex. This guy doesn't know psychology if he was literally forced to sell anything. And now this is over the breaking point of him finally being selfish, him focusing on the women's division, or his lack of ineptness. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't talent in the women's division. I won't. I'm not going to degrade everybody on the women's division. I think Hikaru Kushida is talented, but that there's a limit to what she can actually do. I think Anna Jay and Tai Conti are attractive, talented women. Riho's fine, but she looks like a 19-year-old. She looks like a freaking Japanese teenager. I don't mind Serena Deeb. She seems like a talented woman. But over most of this, her women's title reign is currently more relevant than the AEW women's title reign. And the most you can do is just have these tournaments, Kenny, that are not selling factors into people wanting to watch a show. You don't put these women tournaments on Dynamite so these women can actually have TV time like you did with the women's tag team tournament. But this time, instead of a stupid trophy that Diamante and Evilise, how come you didn't sign Diamante also? You also had like Naomi's old Funkadactyl partner in this. She's not signed, and yet you have a couple of Joshi females that probably nobody ever heard of or are interested in watching because they don't have an interesting gimmick. They're not that enticing to watch. Don't have an interesting look or at least attractive. That's the only reason why certain people are going to watch a show. Sure, that sounds harsh, but it's real. That's the only reason why people would watch. I was gonna just watch a random chick. Like the same thing with anime, even though the weeb crap AEW puts on their garbage. Anime at least has a couple set pieces. You get to see buff dudes kicking the piss out of each other, giant robots, and you get to see nicely curved females, even though most of them are primarily minors. Kenny Omega doesn't get the sentiment. He doesn't know how the business works. Over primordial beef, even Jim Cornette knows how much of an untrustworthy SJW, soft, weeaboo, weirdo, non-selling garbage like terrible way he is in the business. And I'm not saying that to just be like an anti-smart. This is literally over what I've been getting for the last 4 years. I watched some of the main events he's been a part of. I watched his garbage matches against Elgin, Kota Ibushi, Cody Rhodes, Okada 3 times, Tanahashi, Nakamura. Like all these matches that this supposedly paved the way for the simplest draws, and it's just him pretend kneeing these guys in the face with just terrible sells over with dragon suplexes, a missile dropkick that makes them die, nearly makes them die, with no semblance of telling a story. And I'm not that enticed into that. If you're just doing heavy set moves with no semblance of an interesting story enthralled into it, I'm not that interested. And plus, most of the matches that they have rack into nearly an hour. Tell me. Tell me for God. Tell me why Kenny Omega is an interesting wrestler. What makes him better than guys like Ric Flair, John Cena, hell, MJF, Chris Jericho, Sting, Bray Wyatt, guys that have definitive characters, looks, or at least a shred of star power. Kenny Omega is, oh my gosh, you guys don't know him as the Cleaner? That's not a character. You don't know him as the Bout Machine? That's not a character. You guys are just giving simple click nicknames to just make sure that the guy has an identifiable thing about him, other than he's just a generic blonde, overly used hand gesture weirdo that comes around just striking people fake hard in the face. And I've been watching this guy for years, and I've still not even known an upside. Even if WWE was over the desperity of still getting indie midgets, that technically there still are, they still wouldn't sign Kenny Omega. Guys like Jay White, because they know that they're talented in some sets of that they're athletic guys, and they seem to have some cool moves. Unless they have a shred of selling, a decent understanding over psychology, or at least a semblance of chemistry if they're doing a different type of match, and a shred of charisma, they're not hiring them. They saw more potential in freaking guys like Enzo Amore that they literally banned from events than Kenny Omega. And you can say whatever you want about Enzo, he has a shred of charisma, at least, to have the focus of at least Triple H's and Vince McMahon's attention. He shows that he has major confidence. He has a connection over with the crowd. He has literal catchphrases. And he has at least a semblance of a character over being some cloud chasing, big mouth, little dude. Like, I can get behind that. And plus he can do other stuff. Plus he can be like a manager. He can be part of a bit of shows. He can do other stuff than wrestle. Kenny Omega doesn't get the shred of this. And over what I'm hearing, over having a stupid tournament that probably nobody's going to watch, over a shred of not building up to your women's division, that's a sign that Kenny Omega doesn't have a grasp of what makes them what's going to actually get AEW more casual audience, what's going to grow them as a popular centerpiece, or at least something that's going to last more than 5 years like WCW or TNA or Impact. And as much Impact is garbage right now, and even if their partnership is going down a really bad slippery slope, people at least remember like what made Impact good. I just never got the hype around why Kenny Omega is such a prosperous dude over all this. He's a wet twink, garbage wrestler that only does a shred of like bicycle knees, reverse Frankensteiners, a crap move called the One-Winged Angel. He's like a WCW cruiserweight with no semblance of a definitive look other than I'm the cleaner. I'm a main eventer. Like, John Moxley says he will that he's just the same character as Dean Ambrose. At least that's, he shows this, he's this urban guy from Ohio coming around, kicking the piss out of each other, showing he's a badass. I understand that. Chris Jericho, it's Chris Jericho. He's a legitimate dude that's been doing this for decades. Why not make him world champion? Kenny Omega? What are you? This sounds harsh, and I have no means of trying to always disrespect a wrestler, but Kenny Omega is just the brink of what makes pro wrestling just as least popular as it always gets. Cause you come around just like watching Attitude Era stuff, or at least stuff from cool stuff from TNA or WCW stuff, and you come around acting like a geek, coming around seeing a dude like Kenny Omega that's doing gay stuff, kissing around friends, and always having these views like they're going to be hateful. It's just work rate garbage with guys that he's been friends with for years. He shows no acting chops. He never has a memorable promo. His character is beyond anything I could find that's actually definable. And he's just not that enticing of a pro wrestler. Don't say it's a face thing. Don't say it's me just being like I want to be a desperate anti-smart, like I want to be different. People know this because they're not watching. People don't want to watch Kenny Omega. He is like the least amount of conversation when it comes to watching Dynamite. They want to watch people like Cody Rhodes, I guess. They want to watch the hot chicks on Dynamite. They want to watch Anna Jay. They want to watch Ty Conte. They want to see guys like, oh god, Chris Jericho's on another show. Sting's on another show. What do you mean Shaq's in the storyline in wrestling? He's doing something other than NBA TV? Like, come on. Kenny Omega is like the last thing you would think of a draw in a show. And you come around talking the biggest crap about WWE, even though you couldn't even make it over to developmental. Even though they do stuff that you probably need help with, like promo classes. Actually making sense of selling a body part. Giving legitimate logic over doing moves like reverse dragon suplex, then coming back to hit a bicycle knee, and then try to come around doing a dragon suplex. There's no reasonable semblance over a rest spot than kicking out and then having a match for another 30-something minutes. And I just hate this so much because I just think Kenny Omega is like the next thing over in pro wrestling. He's been put over this dumb, like, Hall of Fame list over a Wrestling Observer. Like, I'm supposed to be honored. Like, no. That doesn't make you legit. No one's ever going to bring that up over a conversation whenever you're in a match. Kenny Omega just sucks to me. And I'm sick and tired of everybody just leeching over the soundbite that Kenny Omega is an interesting wrestler. He's a weeaboo creep that fingers his own butt, coming around kissing around on Joshi and weird Japanese wrestlers that obviously have no sense of, advancing into any semblance of popularity they have from their own country. I don't mind. I have big ups on him at least trying to focus on the women's division, but just having random tournaments with no semblance of focus on storylines or character growths from your own female wrestlers, why just have a random tournament then? Make storylines. Grow over factions. Don't make just random tournaments over the semblance of just female work rate. I already buried the hell out of, like, AEW heels. That's just a garbage attempt over a crap minority narrative that's not going to get over soon because nobody's going to actually waste $50 to talk about this women's wrestling. Just garbage. Just pure gayness. I have seen a lot of guys think, well, because you wrestle well means that you're meaning for a push, like Chavo Guerrero, even though people only know Chavo Guerrero because he used to tag with Eddie Guerrero, or the guy who died young that literally had a better career than him. While Chavo, like, what? He showed up on, like, Impact and frickin' Lucha Underground and yet to even break the brink because he doesn't have the character. It's stuff like that. And he comes around talking shit about John Cena. Like, he can do more moves than John Cena. Okay, congratulations. And even, like, recent opinions that have been said over, like, the business in general, and even over WWE locker rooms, like The Undertaker, that came around recently over Joe Rogan's podcast, talking about the change over the dynamics over locker rooms and the toughness of pro wrestlers. Now they come around being badasses with knives, guns, grim dudes that can beat the piss out of you, to just regular people, nerds, weirdos that come around with video games, fingering themselves over the butt, talking crap on social media. Like these are not. This is not people in the locker room. This is like people you see in like a break room on an like in an iPod in like an iPhone store. These are not men and women trying to actually be successful. These are boys and girls just there. And I agreed with Undertaker over that centerpiece, like I did with agreeing with Jim Ross when he was complaining about how AEW really needs to actually make their wrestling a bit better, more logical, and actually make it more real to advance to to a larger demographic than just their own fan base. And I don't think Kenny Omega will ever get this sentiment. If you guys think differently and why I think Kenny Omega is overrated, please comment down in the comment section below, bro. Because I hate the hell out of Kenny Omega. I think he's weakened what make wrestling fun, interesting, and let alone the chance for it to grow. And if we get guys like Kenny Omega more, it will show how much this being a fan of pro wrestling could really be mad embarrassing, and I don't want that to happen. So that's all I have to say about Kenny Omega. Seriously, One-Winged Angel, this guy is such a freaking nerd. His theme songs even suck. It looks like a guy, sounds like a guy being tortured while he's trying to also sing some Dance Dance Revolution song. Freaking nerd ass moves. Who dresses like Kirito? Kirito sucks. You know what? I'm done. We're out.